What about when you come up against him? What then?
I'll fight harder, I always have.
Take a look. His speed, his ferocity, his training. I see the power of belief. I see the League of Shadows resurging.
What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and this might be one of my favorite stories. I don't know how it'll react. It's a good, kind of happy story. If you enjoy it, make sure you have a like down below, and if you haven't yet, please do subscribe, and I'll add some more of these type of stories. So essentially, PETA might be the worst organization on the planet. Most people know that. Their advertising tactics, what they do to animals, are both terrible. And I'm going to show you statistically some evidence to back that up in case you're unaware of just how evil PETA is. Except this time, they tried to go after a family-owned seafood restaurant, and PETA suffered instant regret because they didn't back down. They fought back, and they humiliated them on the world stage. And I'm going to get into all that after a quick word from this video's sponsor, Sheath. Huge shout out to this video's sponsor. That's right, Sheath. These boxers are designed to keep your balls off your legs. Sheath has 3 individual compartments to keep everything down there separate and cool and comfortable. And hey, since they've been a long-time sponsor, I've heard from many of you who have tried out Sheath and really love it. They were invented by a U.S. Army soldier who came up with the idea for Sheath during his second tour in Iraq, where it was hot as heck and his boys needed to breathe. And on top of all sorts of awesome designs for Sheath, they've added all sorts of winter items, hoodies, gator necks, and all sorts of base layers. Head on over to the link in the description and pin comment down below. Use my promo code to save and support the channel and keep everything nice, cool, and dry. I know it's like a weird thing to be thinking about, fellas and ladies, of making the switch, but I think you've got almost nothing to lose by trying out Sheath, and I bet you if you try them out, you really like them, and you'll support the channel by supporting our sponsors. Family-owned seafood restaurant makes PETA regret that it ever protested it. It all started when with a billboard that PETA decided to put up next to a family-owned seafood restaurant in Baltimore. The, quote, animal rights group had apparently been using billboards to protest Jimmy's famous seafood in Baltimore for a little while. That family, the family that owns the restaurant, had seemingly had enough and decided that it was going to troll the trolls. What PETA probably didn't anticipate was how good at counter-trolling the restaurant would be. Jimmy first announced that he would begin the counterattack against the group in late February, announcing, "We're coming," over an exploding PETA board. I got it, billboard. The activist group responded to the restaurant, telling him that his response they wanted was for the restaurant to finally see fish and crabs for complex living, feeling beings they are. Look, you want to not eat meat? That's cool. You want to not eat, crabs and fish and all that? Also totally cool. Been with a vegetarian for 21 years. But when you start telling other people what to do, that's where I have a problem. So, of course, you see the tweet here. Fast forward to Thursday, and the response from Jimmy's has finally been revealed with the billboards of their own. The 2 billboards side by side show a crab on one and a crab cake on the other. "They died to be enjoyed," reads the first. It would be a sin to waste them," reads the second. You see this, "They died to be enjoyed. It would be a sin to waste them," holding up a crab. You see, included in a picture in billboards is a woman holding a crab up. As Jimmy says in the tweet, "This is just the beginning. As promised, our response to PETA's latest billboard stunt a few blocks from our family-owned restaurant. This is only phase 1. Phase 2 will hit much closer to home," tweeted the restaurant. You can see this tweet yesterday. It's unclear what, quote, "closer to home" means in the situation, but I'm willing to bet that Jimmy's is either about to set up a billboard near PETA HQ or they're about to expose PETA for the absolute hypocrites and nutcases they are. Either way, America is here for it. What Jimmy's doing is showing people how to handle radical activists, give no apology, show no guilt, and be brutally hilarious in your response. Radical activists find their true power in cowardice and compliance of their victims. When you don't give anything, they look foolish and weak. And this is an article from Red State by Brandon Morse. Shout out to Brandon. The great thing about all of this is just how terrible PETA is. And this viral story gives me an opportunity to enlighten or discuss just how terrible they are. Now, this isn't a report from just the middle of last year, less than a year ago, where PETA had attempted, terribly so, to defend their extraordinarily high, much higher than anybody else's euthanasia rates. And they tried to explain exactly what it is, but let me just show you how PETA treats animals. The red line is how many of animals in PETA's care get put down versus literally everyone else. Norfolk SPCA, VA, Virginia Beach Animal, this is obviously must be in the state. So PETA puts down nearly 70% of animals in its care. Displayed graphically, the percentage of unclaimed dogs that PETA puts down is much higher than the percentage of unclaimed dogs of any other shelter, probably ever. Okay? Like, received 800. I want you to think about this when you think about PETA. Okay, PETA received 831 dogs, 4 of which were reclaimed by the owner, netting 827. They adopted just 17 of those dogs. 64.2% of PETA's dogs were put down. 64%. Instead of taking care of these dogs, or doing better to rehome them, or doing better to retrain them if they are maybe aggressive or something like that, they do billboard stunts. That's what PETA does with all the millions of dollars that they get out of Hollywood weirdos. If you look at, let's say Norfolk SPCA, which took in about the same number, 799, compared to PETA's 831, right? 2 of which reclaimed by owners, leaving them with 797. They adopted 715 of them. 715 out of 797 dogs received by the Norfolk SPCA were adopted. Of the 827 received by PETA, just 30 more, only 17 of them were adopted out to a new home. The remaining were removed from this planet. And the idea that PETA, so if you look at this article, in an interview posted to YouTube on January 6th, 2022, Ingrid Newkirk, founder of animal rights group PETA, discussed several subjects, including claims made in 2004 by comedy team Penn and Teller that PETA ends cats and dogs, which they do. Miss Newkirk described that Penn and Teller claims cheap and misinformed. We've reported in the past, see example here, on the statistics compiled by Virginia's Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, showing PETA's shelter in Norfolk, Virginia has an extremely high rate of euthanasia when compared to any shelters operating in the very same state. According to Ms. Newkirk, PETA's shelter is an open admission shelter that takes in animals that are on their, quote, last legs. The dregs, if you will, she referred to these dogs, that have doors slammed shut on them in other places. The implication is that the reason for the high rate of euthanasia stated that that's the implication, that's the reason for it. Ms. Newkirk stated that PETA would never euthanize a healthy animal. So they're saying that 700 out of 734 of them, or 650 out of 734 of them, were on their last leg. But none of these other shelters have that kind of rate anywhere near that rate. Now, animal services probably is a little different. That's like strays and, stuff like that's actually pretty high too, 27%. But regardless, it's still less than half of what PETA does for ethical treatment of animals, by the way. Ms. Newkirk's interview came on the heels of an event recently sponsored by PETA called the Poochella event, which PETA described as a multi-shelter adoption event designed to help Virginia dogs find loving homes. According to PETA, their shelters, presumably PETA and 4 other local animal shelters that participate in the event, are bursting at the seams with wonderful dogs who would love great companions. Given its history of euthanizing the vast majority of dogs that it receives, the assertion that PETA is quote bursting at the seams with dogs to be adopted struck us as questionable. So we decided to look at the reported data, and it is shocking. So I stand 1,000% with this family-owned business. Wait, let me give them a shout out. If I'm ever in the area, I'm going to check out Jimmy's Famous Seafood, the Chesapeake Bay area. I see we have 136,000 views, only 900 likes though. Like, you see PETA raised another billboard 1 block from Jimmy's, prepare for our response. Oh, that was the initial response. Okay. Or that was the initial post. Here's the response post, which I'm hoping did a little bit better. Yes, 3,500 likes. And then they're selling people eating tasty animals shirts and all sorts of stuff like that. Absolutely love to see it. Good on them. Family-owned business, crushing PETA. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.